So if you ever read the book of Acts, it ends on chapter 28, goes straight to Romans, and kind of leaves you hanging. Paul is supposed to be on trial and being taken to Caesar, and there's no completion. It just goes on. Apparently Acts is supposedly written by Luke, but there's a bunch of hearsay on social media that there's actually a 29th chapter to Acts. I can't say it's true, that is not what I'm saying. However, there is some information out there. Where does this 29th chapter come from? So the origin story is that it comes from something called the Sonini manuscript. And what is that? So in short, the story claims that it came from a Greek archive in Constantinople via a French traveler in the 1700s, but wasn't publicly surfaced until in London in 1871 with no original documentation, no original documents to verify it, and there's no ancient witnesses to confirm it. But I'm going to read a little bit of it. I'm just going to skip through it in Phoenicia, that's however you want to say it, that certain children of Israel about the time of the Syrian captivity had escaped by sea the isles afar off, as spoken by the prophets and called by the Romans Britain. The Lord commanded the gospel be preached far hence to the Gentiles and to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And no man hindered Paul, for he testified boldly of Jesus before the tribunes and among the people. And he talked with them, certain of brethren which abode with him at Rome, and they took shipping at Osterium, and having winds fair, were brought safely into the haven of Spain. Let's just skip a little bit. Keep going. Verse 8, now when it was noised abroad that the apostle had landed on their coast, great multitudes and inhabitants met him. Verse 9, on the morrow he came and stood upon Mount Lud. 10, this is kind of cool. And at even, the Holy Ghost fell upon Paul, and he prophesied, saying, behold, in the last days the God of peace shall dwell in the cities, and the inhabitants thereof shall be numbered, and in the seventh numbering of the people their eyes shall be open, and the glory of their inheritance shine forth before them. So 11, all nations shall come up to worship on the mount. This is where things get controversial, right? They're talking about being in Britain. And verse 12, that certain of the Druids came unto Paul privately and showed by their rites and ceremonies they were descendants from the which escaped from bondage in the land of Egypt, and the apostle believed them. So this is where the controversy remains. So Druids were considered like pagan priests, and they were not chosen. In the manuscript, Paul meets Druids, claims to be descended from the lost tribes of Israel. The problem is that Druids were priests, the priestly class of the Celtic paganism, practicing nature worship, ritual sacrifice, and occult divination. So the idea that they were secretly Israelites' descendants has zero historical support. It kind of contradicts Paul's mission, because Paul, throughout the book of Acts, is careful to distinguish between the chosen, God-fearing Gentiles and the pagans. So that the fact that Paul would just openly accept the Druids as fellow Israelites is kind of off. The story doesn't necessarily align. So without any confrontation, like he said, he didn't confront them about their pagan practices. It's out of his character. It is an interesting read. I can't say it's real or it's true or none of the above. However, there is said to be a lost chapter of Acts 29. But yeah, it's kind of interesting.